10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey folks, this is Michael Voss with the No Soundbites Allowed podcast. I know we've got some background noise in there. I apologize for that. We're going to do everything we can to knock that out. Now we have a couple of guests coming on. Everything got a little hectic here because it is CPAC. We are live and we are having a great time. We're going to have a couple of guests in just a few moments coming on, and we've got it back-to-back guests are scheduled and expected. I know we started about a half hour late, just a little bit of a technology issue. You've got 500 news media, all of us all together at once, and so we're all using the same everything. So the bandwidth is out there. But I do want to let you know we are paying attention. We are here with you, and we're going to have a great time. You may have already seen some of the coverage. We were covering Representative Jim Jordan earlier this morning, who started off CPAC, had a great time speaking and letting people know what was going on here. We then heard from Deneen Borelli. She had a great speech talking about the U.S. economy and how America is such a unique and great nation, something we don't hear very often at all. But then we went forward and we've gotten some other great speakers throughout the day, and we're going to have some of them on here. I know that Claudia Tenney, the former congresswoman for the New York 22nd District, is here. I've spoken with her, and she may be on as well either today or tomorrow, having great conversations with her. We're speaking with Representative Laudermilk. He was just here, and we were having some great and very interesting conversations about what happens with Congress and some of the background information that we have that goes on in our nation. But without further ado, I'm going to try and get one of my guests on for you right now, and we're going to have them on as well. As I said, I know there's some background noise. We're going to try and clean that up in the video afterwards, but we're going to bring our guests on. We're going to have video going with that as well. It should turn out really well. I hope everyone's going to enjoy it. So we're getting our first guests. They're just walking on up, and we're going to have them on. If you would sit right there, and you can sit there. I'm doing video and audio, and we're going out, and we are live as we speak right now. So, gentlemen, please always keep that in mind. We have with us today Lawrence ZuPan. And Lawrence, you had taken on Senator Sanders out in New Hampshire.
That was Vermont, actually.
Vermont, excuse me.
Yeah, that's right.
What am I saying? It's that day today.
In Northeast, yeah.
And so let me first start off with, who are you? Who is Lawrence ZuPan?
I'm a lifelong lover of the United States of America, and I'm a student of history. I'm a student of politics. I'm a student of government. I'm an MBA, a businessman, and a real estate broker, a father of 3 children, married to my wife for 25 years, and I live in Vermont. And what I saw last year was that Senator Sanders' ideas of socialism were gaining currency among many people, particularly our young people. Of course, it's even gotten worse in the last 3 months, and he was not receiving any serious opposition. So I said, you know something, win, lose, or draw, I'm going to stand up in the arena of ideas, and I'm going to talk about the truth, about the exceptionalism of the United States of America, rooted in the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution, which has given rise to the most exceptionally successful free country in the history of the world. And I'm going to put that in opposition to the ideas that Senator Sanders is trying to promulgate.
And that's a large package. That's a lot of things that you're trying to do. Actually, it isn't, because America is great. And so it's pretty, in that respect, it's very simple, but yet it's politics. So we're talking about a lot of things at once. So what's your background?
Oh, my background?
Yeah.
Well, as I said, my educational background is I'm a Master of Business Administration. I've been a businessman all my life. I was the business manager for Peter Max, a real estate developer, a real estate broker. And from a political standpoint, my first run for office was last year against Senator Sanders. Okay. But I felt like I'd been preparing for it all my life, intellectually, practically, and in the realm of ideas and experience. So you're right. When I was laying out for you before, I was biting off a really big piece. But let me perhaps boil it down by giving you a little anecdote from the debate itself that I had with Senator Sanders.
Okay.
in that debate, I said to him, Senator Sanders, United States of America, with its creative entrepreneurialism, its freedom, its capitalistic system, allowing people to freely engage in commerce, has fed, housed, clothed, with success and prosperity in freedom, more people than any other country in the history of the world.
Absolutely.
Your system, socialism, which you are trying to bring to the fair shores of America, has caused more suffering, want, starvation, death, decline than any other misbegotten system in the history of the world. Now, why, oh why should the American people listen to you about wanting to corrupt what works so beautifully here with your socialism? So he tried to veer towards, he didn't have anything to say, so he tried to deflect and accuse. And all he could say was, Mr. ZuPan, you sound like your friend Donald Trump. In other words, he couldn't attack the substance of what I said because he doesn't have any real ammunition or live fire to go at what I'm saying. Furthermore, when I went on to say that during that exchange, I talked about how he had championed Hugo Chavez only 2, 3, 4 years ago, and now that the people of Venezuela have taken up the quaint custom of dumpster diving for dinner, he has not talked about Venezuela lately. Cool. And so he tried to veer over to Scandinavia, his favorite fallback. I said, well, I'm glad you brought up Scandinavia, Senator Sanders, and you're trying to talk about it as if they're socialistic countries there. Actually, the Scandinavian countries are bedrock, capitalistic, free market enterprise, private property rights countries that have developed enough resources and success through capitalism in order to expand their welfare state. By the way, in Sweden, if you earn $37,000 a year, you're paying 60% of it in taxes. So please don't tell me about the socialist countries of Scandinavia.
You can understand that. And I imagine that knowing Senator Sanders and the way he's moved, shifting guideposts, so to speak, and picking one socialist nation and another as various developments happen in the nations, I'm not surprised that he did that to you. But let me ask you, on some of the issues that many people are concerned about, let's talk about the Second Amendment in particular.
Right.
It's one of the cornerstones of the nation. Actually, I believe it's the cornerstone of the nation.
Yes.
Because for every other right is based on our ability to defend ourselves, our homes, and to protect ourselves from the government. That's my position, of course, but I'd like to hear, what was your position in that? How did you find Senator Sanders' opinion on that?
Well, it's fascinating because Senator Sanders first came into Congress on the strength of opposing a congressman in Vermont who actually touched the third rail of Vermont politics at the time by starting to oppose the Second Amendment. Yeah, and that's how Sanders came on board, isn't it?
Yes, it was a Republican named Peter Smith who endorsed an assault weapons ban. And that created such a backlash to Sanders, who had never won anything besides a mayoral seat up in Burlington, to finally get his statewide win and get into the House.
But now that the political winds have shifted, the hypocrisy has emerged, and he is supporting gun control, so-called, and the abrogation of the Second Amendment.
I want to take a moment because I didn't introduce you, and I apologize. You're the son,
yes.
Lawrence, and your name is?
Yes, my name is Zachary ZuPan. I'm his firstborn son and his campaign manager.
Zachary, it's always good to have you on as well. So there's one of the things that I know that's been going throughout the nation. It hasn't come up to Vermont yet, but it is a very big issue, and I'd like to hear your opinion on it. Are you familiar with the red flag legislation?
Red flag legislation? Forgive me, I'm not sure I am.
Okay, it hasn't come to New Hampshire yet, but it's already been passed in 8 states throughout the nation. There is legislation facing the Senate and in Congress, the House of Representatives. Matter of fact, there was a bill by Senator Marco Rubio that was presented last year. Essentially, what this bill does is it allows individuals, either in a household, law enforcement, or others, depending on the bill, to be able to petition a judge directly, goes directly to the courts, and say that you are a danger to yourself and or the community, and because of that danger, the government is then able to go into your home and take your firearms. As a direct consequence of that, they also will be able to take your children. The verification of this is that if you have bought a steak knife, a hammer, any dangerous implement is the language of the bill, then they are able to justify this.
And there's no due process.
You are not notified until the day that the police knock on your door.
So you have no way to defend yourself against the charges.
No. And in Florida, as an example, they passed it in March. In between April and June of last year, 2018, 450 individuals suffered this indignity and had to then go to the courts and petition to get their property back without having committing a crime.
Well, actually, we did have a similar event in Vermont.
Right.
Yeah. Also signed into law by Governor Scott, incidentally.
Who ostensibly, or at least by registration, is a Republican. Yet he seems to be favoring gun control in Vermont right now. So we had a case where the uncle of a young boy who was suspected of having some violent ideas, his uncle's firearms, because he potentially had access to them, his uncle's firearms were confiscated. And his uncle had no due process, no right to protect himself, no right to retain his property because of the allegations without due process against his nephew. So, yes, we have had something like that.
And that was then used as an excuse to pass some sweeping new gun control laws that ruined Vermont's previous status as the gold standard for firearm liberty in the country.
Which we used to be.
Exactly. We were the standard of freedom on the Second Amendment and one of the standards by it. So that's why I was very concerned about this case. And and I apologize, I haven't followed Vermont on this and exactly where Senator Sanders has come down. So you're against the red flag legislation as I've described it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not exactly
I'm against any infringement on the Second Amendment rights of American citizens. So Senator Sanders has taken the politically useful position, as he construes it, to be against Second Amendment sanctity and supporting gun control measures under the guise of protecting people, which is ironic because it's actually the Second Amendment that gives people the power, as you pointed out, to protect themselves.
Absolutely. Let's ask you, I know we don't have a lot of time today. I do thank you for stopping by to introduce yourself and to all of my listeners. Let me also ask you, in reference to the economy, obviously it's a very big issue. It's affecting everyone in the nation. And looking at it from Vermont, looking at the proposals of increasing taxes, we've heard that from Nancy Pelosi, we've heard that from Chuck Schumer last year, and in fact in March of 2018, we hear from Senator Sanders that he's looking to have free college and free everything, except for Medicaid for all, would cost estimated about $32 trillion.
Right.
Where do you stand on these issues, free college, Medicare for all, that direction?
I'm glad you asked. You know, a little while ago I wrote an op-ed, and some of your listeners may be old enough to remember the Beatles song, Taxman. If you try to drive, I'll tax the street. If you try to walk, I'll tax your feet. Taxman. That seems to be the pathological obsession that the Democrat Party has. If they see it move, they tax it. So now, I'm a student of the economy. I'm a student of what works. I'm a master of business administration and a businessman. And what I've found and seen over the years is that the money that's used most effectively is the money that's spent and used by the people who actually earn it. And the further that money moves away from the people who produce that value, the more promiscuously and wastefully and recklessly that money gets spent, which is a definition of what we have in Washington, D.C. right now. So I'm in favor of reducing taxes, reducing spending simultaneously, keeping the power of the purse closest to the people who earned it. If it's not them, it's their local taxing authority, which answers more directly to them and has to face them face to face. The people who, from hundreds and thousands of miles away, make legislation, they never have to remember that they're dealing with real flesh and blood people, will be all that more wanton in their taxation policies. So, reducing taxation, giving the liberty, which includes keeping what you earn, which is one of the definitions of liberty, in the hands of the American people, has always been what's given us the prosperity and the greatness, and will restore the prosperity and greatness as it's starting to do once again.
No, let me ask you, obviously the first time any candidate runs, and I've run myself for Congress in the New York 22nd District, so I'm very familiar with this. The first time is a learning experience for everyone.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. What would you say is one of the biggest things that you learned on the campaign trail in the last run?
One of the biggest things that I've learned is somewhat prosaic. Start early and let everybody know that if they support what you're doing, they need to support you financially, because time and money need to be on your side, not against you. Now, those are two prosaic elements to answer your question. But of course, the most important thing is to have the power and the strength of your own convictions behind why you're even running in the first place, so that you can communicate them not only with a good brain, but from your heart out your mouth, so that you touch people where they live. If you have that, along with an early start and financial support, you can prevail.
Let me ask you, and I know many of my younger viewers, the younger generation overall, obviously have been looking towards the socialism, the democratic socialists of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or Mr. Sanders himself, introducing it to them. And there's been a lot of attention given to that, especially in Vermont. So let me ask you, how have you been addressing that? I imagine you've been asked about that.
I'm so glad you asked, because in the debate with Senator Sanders, I got to ask him a question. And I said, Senator Sanders, now that you're a millionaire, I know that there are thousands of young Vermonters all around us who would love to know the blueprint that you established for becoming so entrepreneurially successful.
Becoming a millionaire.
Becoming a millionaire. Keep in mind, I'm talking to the self-avowed socialist.
Of course.
So without any sense of irony, he proceeded to talk about the book that he wrote, and he started to hawk his book like it was an infomercial in our debate. And the irony was completely lost on him.
On public television.
This was on NPR's affiliate, VPR in Vermont. I think the irony was completely lost on him that I had the socialist millionaire talking about how to build wealth, even though, in response to his opponent's question, you can't make this stuff up.
No, it's a very interesting thing. I definitely would like to see that video of that debate, or even audio.
We'll send it to you.
I would love to see that, because that's a very interesting thing. I don't think a lot of people have really touched on the fact that Senator Sanders is now a multi-millionaire. He is three homes, and he's
one up in
not
Grand
redistributing that, which he's talking about for everyone else.
Yeah.
Let me be fair, though. Let me also ask, are you a millionaire?
I'm not a millionaire, but I don't envy other millionaires. I try to learn from what they've done successfully, and I try to learn from other millionaires, because they have produced something, goods and services of value, to the extent where they've been rewarded with good and great wealth. That's the bedrock of success. So we need to learn from millionaires, not envy them, put them down, or tax them into another country.
Well, that is the American dream, isn't it? That we're all supposed to be able to have our homes, and we're able to have our cars, and be able to live our lives with some measure of comfort, if not for us directly, our children thereafter. I mean, that is what we're supposed to be doing. Why are we upset with someone? I always ask, why are we upset about someone who's done that already?
We should be standing on the sidelines applauding and learning from them. Applauding their success and learning how they did it, and then going out and doing it ourselves.
Also, let me ask you, how have you been received? I know first-time candidates, often in my program, actually, we love to talk to first-time candidates and people who've just gone into races, because I think it's important that real people get involved and take politics back from those who've been there historically a long period of time, 10, 20 years, and so forth. Do you believe in term limits?
I do believe in term limits. I believe that an appropriate term limit will probably be 3 for the House, 3 terms for the House, and 2 for the Senate.
Okay. So you're looking at 12 and actually 12 years.
12 years, and
12 and 6.
12 years.
12 in the Senate, 6 in the House.
And would you stand by that for yourself? If
I
you were
would.
to be elected?
I would.
Okay, so you're willing to limit yourself to just 2 terms in the Senate if you were to be elected from day one?
Yeah, although I must admit to you right now, it wouldn't be that heroic because by that time I'd be in my 80s anyway. But yeah.
In your 80s?
Yeah.
You don't seem that old.
Thank you. But yeah, I would stand by it. I would, walk the walk as well as talk the talk.
Well, that's an important thing because we hear many people who don't and aren't even willing to say on camera or to the public that they're willing to have those time limits. So that's always an important thing.
Yeah.
I know we're running short. We've got about 4 more minutes.
Okay.
We've covered a couple of different things in the election. Let me ask you, what is the support you're getting? Is it mostly from Republicans, conservatives, older generation, younger generation? How is your voice being received right now?
Well, so far it's been mostly the Republicans that have responded to my message, and a little bit those who are somewhat right of center. But the common sense ideas that I have are reaching out and touching people, including independents and some Democrats. But now that the election against Senator Sanders is over, right now I'm not running for anything. What I'm running for is to reinvigorate the awareness and the education of the basic principles of what made America exceptional, wonderful, and great, and how to keep those alive. In fact, what I do is I go around to schools and civic organizations around the state, and I do a little seminar called Brush Fires of Freedom. And that's, I borrowed freely from Samuel Adams' famous quotation where he said, "In order to prevail, we do not need a majority, but only an irate and tireless minority willing to set brush fires of freedom in the hearts and minds of their countrymen." So consider me Johnny Applefire, because I'm going around, that's what I'm going around doing.
Okay. For those who are interested in learning more, I know we haven't, and I apologize, I wasn't familiar with your race, so I couldn't go in proper depth, and I apologize for that. But let me ask, for those who are interested, the website, I believe, and I want to make sure, is the ZuPan, that's Z as in Zulu, U as in uniform, P as in Papa, A as in Alpha, N as in November, for Vermont.com. Is that correct? And do you have any upcoming events where someone may be able to see you or that they'll be able to hear more from you directly?
They could write to us. They could write to me or Zachary at either Zachary at, what's our new email address?
So it would be Zachary at ZuPanForVermont.com or Lawrence at ZuPanForVermont.com.
And we'd be happy to fill them in on what's going on and how they could be in touch with us and what we're doing.
I'm very interested in this, and I do want to follow this a little bit more, especially with the 2020 race. And obviously, Mr. Sanders has already mentioned that he's looking to run for president, which I don't think will happen based on the gender and identity politics we see the Democratic Party leaning towards. But I think it's even more important to know what's going to be happening in Vermont and how he's speaking.
Well, he basically takes Vermont for granted and goes around the rest of the country because he has been so electorally successful there. But I think that with all of the people who want the nomination in the Democrat Party jostling themselves with pointy elbows to move further to the left of Bernie Sanders, and each one coming up with a new extreme giveaway program each week, that socialism is the poison for which we need to teach the antidote, which is constitutional free market entrepreneurial capitalism. And I'm not talking about capitalism of the top 100 corporations. I'm talking about everything from the guy who's got a great idea in his garage, the Steve Jobs, the Paul Allens of the world, who have built something from scratch because they had a unique genius idea. This is happening every day. In the last 10 years, how many corporations that are on NASDAQ didn't even exist a few years ago because of the inventive genius and the power of supercomputing. So I want to promulgate that we have an opportunity economy, that everyone who's starting out in life can look forward to greatness if they pick an idea, apply themselves, and commit to their own success. There's no better place in the world to do it than the United States of America.
I agree completely. I do. I do want to thank you. I want to stay in touch. Please let me know what's going on and keep me aware of what's. There's a lot of races I try and follow in Colorado, New York, my own home state, where there's a couple of crazies. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez being one of them. But I do want to follow what's going on in Vermont. I'm very interested. One quick question on Green New Deal.
Right.
For it, against it?
Well, I mean, it's almost a question that answers itself.
Of course, but you gotta ask.
But you have to. The Green New Deal is the epitome of neo-Marxist lunacy coming out of the mouth of someone who never really has any experience of any depth of intellect and life, that just is plucking these ideas, smashing them together, and then these supposedly more mature veteran senators are getting behind it because they're embarrassed to say she's crazy. $93 trillion. Look, here's a problem. We have a $22 trillion deficit already, which is threatening the acceptability of the United States dollars for future months, years, and generations. We need to pare back that deficit. We need to pare back the $1 trillion a year deficit spending, not multiply it with harebrained ideas based on socialist nostrums, socialist ridiculousness.
I have to say, I feel bad for reasonable environmentalists with free market solutions who are now, they're getting sidelined because Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal is monopolizing all the talk of any sort of environmental policy.
We are talking about that a lot these days, and hopefully we're going to move past this because I see this as being a very functional law. But we'll get there. We'll definitely get there with you helping in Vermont and others in Colorado and New York and many other places I've been speaking to. We're going to get there. I like to believe that. But gentlemen, what I would like to do is we're going to look forward to try and follow up with you after CPAC, maybe in a month or two. Let's see where we are and let's see how we can help each other to spread the word and talk more about this and get some more details out there for everyone.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
I thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.